Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grand Slam Journey podcast, where I, together with my guests, discuss various topics related to finding our passion and purpose, maximizing our potential, sports, life after sports, and transitioning from one chapter of our lives to the next, growing our skills and leadership in whatever we decide to put our minds into. For my guest today, Mark Reifkind, it is areas of sports, elite performance, fitness, general health and fitness, coaching, and balancing health and fitness as we age through life. I'm not going to go through detailed introduction of Mark. If you want to know who Mark is, feel free to go back to part 1 of this conversation, which is episode number 35, or you can click on the link in the episode show notes that will take you to Mark's website and blog, where you can read more about him and find many other resources. Today's episode is the second part of my conversation with Mark. During the first episode, we covered the wide span of athletic endeavors and perspective that Mark has, from gymnastics to endurance to bodybuilding and powerlifting, including coaching and running gyms. During this episode, Mark and I dive deeper into fitness and specifically into areas that I have been personally pondering about and struggling with. We talk about the significance of recovery and the power of routines, including balancing the quality and quantity of training. We discuss longevity, stress management, handling pain, the art of letting go and saying no. Get ready to hear valuable insights on discipline, coaching, mindset, and sustaining long-term success, including practical tips to kickstart your fitness journey and the importance of consistency. There have been many reasons why I wanted to have a discussion with Mark, and I have personally learned a lot from this conversation. One of the main things that is my takeaway is the importance of recovery and body maintenance. As a preparation for this conversation, I have listened to a number of Mark's podcasts, and I have been amazed how focused he is and how much attention he pays, not just on the training itself, but also on maintaining the flexibility and muscle tissue quality and recovery that is needed in order to perform and continue to push our body to the next level, whatever age we might be. I see that has been an area of my weakness. I have traditionally seen body maintenance, such as foam rolling, as something annoying and tedious. I have perceived body maintenance and recovery as something additive, and frankly, my attitude around it has been that I just don't have enough time in the day to put in the right effort. Looking back, I've always done the work being a professional athlete, and as I age through life, I thought that if you're not running around on the court 4 to 6 hours a day and trying to push your body to the next level, your body maintenance is not as important anymore. What I'm learning now is, as I age through life, sometimes you're better off giving up your high-intensity workout for a 1-hour session of your body maintenance work to allow it to recover, so you can be consistent and continue to progress and meet your athletic goals at whatever age and stage of life you might be. It is something that I will work to adapt and build into my daily routine. For those of you who are interested in learning more about body maintenance work, you can find a link to a blog that I wrote on my website, grandslamjourney.com, and download a body maintenance ebook created by Mark. he offers to all of you listeners at no cost. I hope you give it a try, and perhaps it empowers you to create your own routine so you can continue to keep your body healthy, mobile, and set yourself up for your athletic success, whatever that may mean for you. If you enjoyed this episode, I want to ask you to please share it with someone you believe may enjoy it as well. Submit a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And now I bring you the second part of my conversation with Mark Reifkind. Enjoy the listen. Selfish question, Mark. This is totally things I personally have been thinking about and a little bit struggling with even this morning. I hear you give yourself the space to iterate. So as you go through life and injuries, you almost find a different way to stay active. But at the same time, I feel like, being an athlete, you have certain expectations. And just to share my perspective, I mean, tennis is a lot of high cardio, right? It's always running, you're driving your heart rate. So that's what naturally I've been really good at. I'm really good in suffering and 160, 170 beats per minute and keep going for 30, 40 minutes if I have to. That suffering is kind of joyous for me.
Right. No, I got it.
But I realized as I age through life, that's really not the most effective way because I can't recover as well anymore. And finding the time for recovery is really hard. So I've really been optimizing more of my training now and building time for more zone 2. And then I start adding the powerlifting, which is focusing more on the raw strength. But then I also have days like today and suffering with some hip and back, and you just go there and you kind of force yourself, okay, I'll just try to do what I can today, just keep moving, but lower the expectations and see what your body allows you to do. But it is so hard. How do you go through that, Mark? How do you coach yourself through that mindset? Because I'm assuming you've gone through this.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And I think there's a lot to it in the sense of the aging athlete or the aging person. It doesn't even matter. You lose abilities. The first thing is one of the basic rules is recovery precedes intensity. So that's the most important thing to remember. It's not whether you can do the workout, is can you recover from it? Like I can do all kinds of workouts and then tomorrow I'll be in the hospital. I mean, literally, I'm not even kidding. Like tomorrow's my training partner, Len's, he's my best friend and he's a 70-year-old guy and he's literally done everything in life. He was a Division I football player, a linebacker. He was a 30-year cop. He was a Marine. He was a Green Beret. He's jumped out of airplanes. He was a football player. He's a real elite 770-pound squatting power lifter, 23 surgeries and 4 artificial joints and just suffering, right? And he's working. He's got the work ethic and he's too much of work ethic. He'll do the workout, finishes the workout, says, oh, that was great. I said, tell me tomorrow. We're not going to judge if this was a good workout. You wake up tomorrow and feel nothing. In fact, I'll read you my Facebook post this morning. I just wrote this down this morning. One of my major goals in training is to perform at least as well in my session as I did the last workout, perhaps a little bit better, and feel nothing the next day. No soreness, tweaks, pulls, or issues. If I can maintain this over time, I will get stronger and fitter and avoid injuries. So the most important thing as you get older is really judging the quality of your workout, not by your numbers, but by your numbers and then your recovery. And as you get older, the recovery has to take precedence. And by recovery, I mean active recovery.
Yeah.
So active recovery, that's stretching, that's your body work, that's your self-myofascial release, that's your massage, that's your sauna, that's your whirlpool, that's your bath, that's your actual downtime, like put your feet up and rest. That's all what I consider active recovery. And so for me, I went through a period when I was master instructor with Strong First and kettlebell instructor and all this. And I was traveling to certs and could barely walk. Just dragging my leg around, like drag that thing around like an unborn twin. You know?
Oh, God.
I realized that rehab was training.
Yes.
And I started to approach my rehabilitation and my prehabilitation as equal in importance to my lifting training workout. And I think that's the way to do it. It's like people do their foam rolling and their stretching and their assessment of like, okay, if your hips jacked up, I guarantee you it's either your hip flexor or your glute is too tight on one side. If you don't have a set time, if that's not written into your program design as part of a day, like the first thing I do, like I get up at 3:45, have a cup of coffee. At 4 o'clock, I'm doing back bends on the stability ball and the foam roller and my stretching. First thing, because I want to unlock anything that's jacked up before I hit the rest of the day. So that's my first priority, because if I say, well, I'll stretch at the end of the day, one, I'm tired. It's not either won't happen or it'll be done half-assed. So I do it first, because what gets done first gets done with the best energy. That's where it's just like, okay, I don't want to do it. Of course you don't want to do it. Are you going to do it? That's the discipline.
Yeah.
And then you're doing an assessment. Every day I do an assessment of, I'm trying to be square, plumb, and neutral. That's my goal. As close as possible. All my joints bend the same. The tissue quality is the same. It sounds complicated, but you know what side of your body's tighter than the other. You know what side that constantly gets tweaked. It's always the same thing, pretty much. So I think as you get older, it's just realizing like, okay, so Sundays for the last 10 years, I've done a 2-hour ruck with a 50-pound backpack. And up until 6 months ago, maybe less, I don't know, I just got to the point like I could do an hour and a half, and the last half hour was just a freaking slog. And I can make myself do it. I said, you know what? It's enough. 6 miles is enough. It was at the point where I could recover, but I'd have to take something else out. So I said, just do an hour and a half. That's enough. Made all the difference. So it's accepting the ability to do less, but appreciating the quality of what you do more. If that makes sense.
I love it.
I appreciate that I finished the ruck and I only need 2 naps today instead of 3 naps. And I nap and sleep. That's another thing. People look about supplements, nootropics, and all this other stuff. Do you sleep? How much sleep you get? That's like everything.
Yes.
That's like everything. And one other thing about, longevity and health and all this other stuff and exercise leading towards that, I don't know, and I don't particularly believe that exercise will make you live any longer than you're genetically set up to live, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so Dr. Peter Attia?
Yes, I listened to plenty of his podcasts.
Okay, and I like the guy. And I haven't done a deep dive. I studied him a couple of years ago when I was into keto. And he was talking about his latest book, which I just got. I haven't read yet. And he said that you should maintain a max VO2 level, an elite level max VO2 of the decade before you. So I'm 65. So I should have a max VO2 of somebody, an elite level of 55, 56. Because that's one, never take advice about living to 100 years old from somebody that's not 100. Okay. Okay, really. I mean, I'm being a little sarcastic, but it's really true. It's like, what do you know, dude? You may die of a heart attack and you could be in perfect health.
Yes.
You're still going to die. And this is my argument. So you know about blue zones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guarantee you go to the blue zones where all these people live to 100 years old. There is not one person in a blue zone that has a max VO2 of the decade before them. None. Because they're not training. There just happen to be people who live to 100 for a lot of reasons. Genetics are a huge part of it. And here's the other thing that no one talks about. Stress. If you stress that your exercise program isn't going to make you live to 100, that'll probably kill you faster than just, I'm not even joking, right?
I love it. That's so true.
It's like, okay, I got a spreadsheet for all the stuff that's going to make me live to 100, but I might have anxiety about my spreadsheets not being right. So it's like, that's going to kill you faster than these people that live. And it's like, they have a lifestyle that they're not constantly poisoning their body with stress toxins. I'd like to see, I mean, I haven't talked to him, but I'd love to hear, have they done studies of centurions, what type of exercise routines they do? I guarantee you that it's a really casual lifestyle. If you're living in Sardinia, you're living in some village, these people aren't training. They just live their life and they're carefree and whatever level they end up living to 100 years old. But here's the other point to that. And that was partially tongue in cheek. although training and exercise may not make you live longer, you're going to live better quality. As far as I'm concerned, I love being strong. I love being fit. I love being pain-free. You may figure out like, okay, I'm going to live to 100 if I sit in my lounge chair and do nothing, but then you're this blob of a person that has the work capacity of an earthworm, and who cares? I may be 100 years old, but what's your capacity to be functional, right?
I agree.
Like I said, that's the thing, is anything that makes me stress is bad. Let's put it that way.
Well, unless you find the stress itself strengthening, right? I think there's also a lot of studies, or nowadays it seems like people, oh my God, stress is bad for you. You're going to die if you're stressing out. But I think it's not the stress itself, it's how you perceive the stress.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
And maybe I put it in like perspective of athletics. Like there's a lot of stress and pressure, especially in important moments. And you know it from gymnastics better, but even in tennis, like there's some really critical points, match points, some important game points that you play.
Or just the stress of everyday training. That's a stress also, sure.
Yeah. And so it's more of like how you perceive it.
100%.
Like if you perceive stress as completely negative, then it's going to degrade your health.
Well, there's, I think, different types of stress. There's what's called eustress, EU stress, and distress, right? So eustress is a positive stress. And distress, like, okay, so if I'm thinking about taxes, that's a negative stress. If I'm thinking about undergoing the middle of my workout, that's a eustress. That's a positive stress.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Some people thrive on, I have a friend that works 15 hours a day. And for him, if he's not working 15 hours a day, he's stressed. For me, I need more downtime. If I'm overscheduled, that makes me stressed. But some people love it. So everyone's different. But yes, but I'm talking about the distress, the stuff that keeps you up at night.
Yeah.
The stuff that gives you anxiety. One of the metaphors that I use is everyone has a stress box. Once that stress box is filled, anything more is going to spill over and it's going to be negative. So you can fill that stress box up with 100% training, 100% work, 100% relationships, or some variation of that, some combination. But you get to choose. For years, I chose, most of my stress came from training because I didn't want to have a traditional job because it messed up my training. So you can fill that stress box up, but you only have so much. So you fill it up. My friend fills it up with 95% business. He has very little mental energy for his training. But that's his choice. Everything's a choice. You can choose that. You can change it, right? You can change, like, I've had enough of this. I'm going to change it. That's always an option.
Yeah.
But if it's making you sick, like literally making you sick, or it's keeping you from sleeping, I can't think of that's a positive stress.
I agree. If you can't sleep, and
and sometimes it's life. You don't have a choice.
Yes. I want to tie on a little bit earlier again what we were saying, and adjusting the training as you grow older and diving into, even personal things I've been struggling with. As athletes, I believe we get quite a bit attached to pain and soreness. I actually used to hate, or still hate, when I wake up and I am not sore. I feel like I'm not doing enough and I'm not pushing my body. So in some ways, if I'm feeling pain here or there, I was like, oh, it's good. Like, it means I'm exercising, I'm strengthening. And there's the one thing, as I age, I need to figure out there's different thresholds of pain, right? Because the pain that it used to be the good pain in 20s, you could recover from quickly. Now in like almost my 40s, it takes me way longer to recover. So I'm figuring out what is the pain sensitivity that my body can tolerate and still recover from. I'm sure you have gone through this journey, perhaps even more so through your extreme sports. How have you fine-tuned it now? Like, how did you find that threshold to look? What I'm hearing is pain is not good. You just find a way to train to where you actually feel good and you're pain-free the next day. Do you miss the pain? And how have you rewired your brain to not miss it?
Pain is one of those, it's a tricky word. Pain is like love, right? Okay, I love my dog and I love my wife and I love ice cream. They're not the same love. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
So pain is the same way. So it's like, there's the pain. Like, I'm a big fan of foam rolling and self-myofascial release. It's like people say, well, I get on the foam roller, it's painful. I said, that's not pain. Pain is when someone cuts you with a knife, you have a laceration or you dislocate a joint.
Mm-hmm.
That sensation is you're not putting pain in, you're letting pain out. That muscle tissue is painful, but it's releasing the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So there's levels of pain.
Yes.
Pain is not the same. So the pain, okay, you're doing a 20 rep squat workout. Okay. And you're doing 20 reps and you can barely breathe and you got lactic acid and the muscles are burning. And that's one level of pain. That's effort of pain. Then you have the pain of like, I tweaked my knee or I tweaked my elbow and the joint hurts. That's a different level of pain. Completely different pains, but we have the same one word for it. It's not the same. So then you wake up and you're super sore. That's another level of pain. And again, it all refers to your goals. So if you're a power lifter, being sore is a negative because that means your recovery is going to take that much longer. If you're a bodybuilder and your goal is building muscle mass, being sore the next day is a useful sign because you're in the muscle and you really have to kind of literally break down the muscle and recover and let it build up. So it's very easy to train the wrong way for your sport. So for your sport, being sore is going to be a real negative. Say you're talking about tennis, right? You do a heavy workout and you're really wake up the next day and your joints are okay, but every muscle is super sore and super tired and super slow. Now you get on the court, you're going to be discoordinated, you're going to be slow. It's not productive for a tennis player to be sore. So you want to train the right way for your sport. There's a lot of people that are addicted to the workout rather than the goal. So if I told you, hey, Clara, you can get everything you want physically from your workout in terms of it's going to increase your speed, it's going to increase your power, it's going to increase your endurance for your tennis, whatever your goal is at the time. But you can only do one workout every 3 weeks. Would you do it?
Wow, I don't know, Mark. I like working out. I don't think so.
Exactly. No, that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
That's exactly the point. I was the same way. When I was bodybuilding and I thought about going into powerlifting, when I was bodybuilding, I was training like 4 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. It was total volume, maybe not that much, but you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then powerlifting, they'd work up to one hard set. I'm like, dude, what am I going to do the rest of the day?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't work out that little. So I didn't do it. And then when I found Westside, and Westside was all about volume, I'm like, okay, I could do 10 sets of 3. That's the type of training. I could do a lot of stuff. But that's the thing is people get addicted to the process rather than the goal.
Mm-hmm.
I like to work out too. I would not choose that. I'm like, okay, I get this. I love being in that flow zone. My goal of most of my training is to get in that flow state. Gymnastics was you lived in the flow state. And so the more I get in the flow state, the happier I am.
Yeah.
That's when my brain shuts up.
Yes.
So, but the thing is like being sore for me is always the prelude to injury. Because if I'm sore, then something is going to be asymmetrical until I completely recover. So it's easy to get sore. That's nothing.
Yeah.
It's easy to have muscle pain, but is it going to help me? So what I found is as I've gotten older and I've recovered, see, for the longest time, I was in constant pain with my knee. And then my back, I had a herniation. So it's like once I actually got out of real pain, and also there's pain and then there's what I consider terror.
Yeah.
I've had the pain levels where, oh, my elbow hurts, oh, my knee hurts. I've had back injuries to the point where literally full terror, like maybe I won't be able to stand up, maybe I won't be able to walk, like terror. And every time my back kind of gets a little worried, it's like I get this nausea in my stomach. It's like, okay, did you do it this time, buddy? You know,
Yeah.
I avoid that like the plague now because that literally was terrifying, that type of spinal pain.
Yeah.
So soreness, tightness, whatever, that's not a big deal. But that type of terror pain, I want to stay as far away. And the older I get, the more I appreciate nothingness in the sense of being able to walk, being able to do very regular, easy things and get through life without having to constantly do physical therapy on yourself. It's really nice. It's tiring, right?
Yes.
It's tiring. So I think as I get older, I accept the requirements to do less, but enjoy it more, if that's the thing. That's how I kind of reset my brain is, okay, I can't do everything, but the things I do, I'm trying to, and I still look at my numbers, right? So if your goal is to squat X, that's the goal. Whether you need to do 100 squats or you need to do, if you can achieve X with 30 squats a week instead of 100 squats a week, as long as the numbers are going in the right direction most of the time, that's what I look at.
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting stronger or am I getting weaker? And I look at it in terms of work capacity too. I was doing these workouts and now I can't do them because I can't recover. And I don't have enough time in my day I can't sleep 9 hours a day, whatever would be a fix for that.
Yeah.
So then what's required is you have to do a deep dive into your training. And it's like, are you just training? As you know, I mean, there's quite a bit of masochism with athletes, right? You just want to beat yourself up, which is exactly what CrossFit is,
yes.
right? CrossFit is just one big, giant masochist. CrossFit, I've defined this forever. It's like hitting yourself in the face every single day over and over with the off chance that you'll get in a fight sometime down the line and be able to tolerate being hit in the face.
True.
That's what it is, right?
Yes.
You beat yourself up with eventually you might need to be in a situation where you can survive being beaten up. It's like, then you're crippled. But that's part of the athlete's mentality is, like more is better. As I get older, it's like better is better.
Yeah.
And then you can do stuff like zone 2 stuff where you can go out there and do easier work, but you need to kill demons.
Yes.
Kill them with less energy.
Just keep going longer. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm learning, right? I don't need to do this high intensity because it's super hard for my body to recover. I mean, I can do it effectively 6-7 times a week. So,
hey, you want to do a really hard, serious, masochistic thing? Meditate, sit for 30 minutes a day.
No, that is masochistic for me, Mark. I force myself to do it at some point, but yes, I agree.
Sit without moving for 30 minutes a day and see how tough you are. I'm serious. Nothing harder than sitting still.
Right. This one is very close to that. And I have to say, before this podcast, I listened to 2 of your podcasts. The last one on your website was fantastic. The Strength to Endure.
Thank you.
And hearing you, as well as you now in our podcast, describing your morning routine, it was for the first time in over a decade. When I woke up this morning, I did a foam rolling because I hate recovery. I hate everything to do with it. And I'm talking to you about this because you probably hate it the same, or if not more than I do through your injuries. It's like the one thing I always do the work. I always show up for the workout. I love, in some ways, the good joy of suffering, but the recovery is the hardest thing to do, creating time for the maintenance and focusing on the foam rolling or whatever other things. And so hearing you having this routine, maybe it's like the tenaciousness you described. You probably maybe have better work ethic, or how do you force yourself to do it every day? How have you rewired over time to make it a priority?
Here's the thing. I didn't hate it, especially before my knee replacement, because it is the only thing that made me able to move semi-normal. Like I had gone to physical therapists since I was 17 and none of them knew anything what they're doing. And no one ever gave me anything that worked until I found the foam roller and these modalities. And as soon as I realized, that's why when people, like studies show foam rolling doesn't work. It's like, well, you're full of shit. I know it works because I'm in pain. And when I do it, I feel better and I can move better. So you're telling me to deny the objective experience that I have of before I do it, I can't move. And after I do it, I move better. No, that doesn't work for me. So it was painful, but I moved better and I felt better afterwards. It was like I looked forward to it because I knew if I didn't do it, I couldn't literally do anything. The accumulated tension would just, after a couple of days, I couldn't walk. I couldn't bend. I couldn't do anything even looking like normal. So that was my training. That was first. Training with loading was afterwards. If I did it correctly, so I could do it. So I could do the loading. And then the other part, stretching is as a gymnast, we would stretch 45 minutes before we'd start practice.
Yeah.
That wasn't even counting practice. So you show up at the gym and you'd stretch out because you had to have splits, right? You had to have splits in all three directions. You needed to be able to lock your knees and keep all those things. So like that was not, what's that whole thing? My warm up is your workout. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
We would stretch for 45 minutes before we start training.
Yeah.
Stretching is a whole nother thing. It's as much mental as physical, and breath. You learn how to breathe when you stretch. So as much as running teaches you how to breathe, but that was part of it. It's like stretching and foam rolling was pain relief. It wasn't pain creation. It was pain release. I was letting the pain out of my body. It didn't last very long in the sense of like I had to do it every day because my knee was so dysfunctional and my movements were so dysfunctional because of my restrictions. But that was the difference for me, is I made that association very early. Like, this is going to enable me to walk semi-normal. Mm. And that was the same thing with the kettlebell. When I found the kettlebell, I couldn't squat. I couldn't deadlift because of my back, couldn't cycle, couldn't walk, but I could swing a bell. And that gave me a level of strength and conditioning I otherwise would never have been able to achieve with my knee that didn't work. And that rehabbed my back. I was coming off of a lumbar herniation. So that combination of the body maintenance work and the kettlebell swings, that literally saved my body and my life because I could train again. I was building. I was getting better, not worse. So I think, it's just having been 40 and realizing how stinking young that is. You don't appreciate it when you're 40 because you think you're old. Let me tell you something. You ain't old. It's coming. And at 66, I realized, like, okay, I can imagine 10 years from now, I'm going to look back at this and like, dude, you're only 66. You're a kid. And I think that's true. You start every phase you get. It's just the reality of life. You try to hold on to whatever qualities you can or have them go backwards slowly and find ways to heal yourselves. But it's a necessary part of the whole thing to let some things go.
Yeah.
I'm really good at letting things go. It's not even just training, it's life. You have to, I feel, if you hold on to stuff that's not functional anymore. Tracy likes this phrase, it doesn't serve me. I like that. Yeah. Does it serve you? If it doesn't serve you, let it go. Okay? It's not serving you. It's messing you up. So why hold on to it? So that's a big part of it. So yeah, for me, I realized if I wanted to be able to do the things I was going to be able to do with travel and teaching and stuff like that, I had to be able to walk somewhat. And in order to do that, I had to do this combination of yoga, flexibility, foam rolling, whatever it was, and figure out a routine that worked for me. That's the whole evolution of that. So it's a mindset shift, right?
Yes.
I try to be as logical and pragmatic about things as I can. Because every time, the more emotional I am about things, and I used to be 100 times more emotional, it didn't serve me. It didn't serve me. So I had to stop chewing on it, make a decision, let it go, and go forward. And then here's the thing. The other thing is you can change your mind again. You can change your mind 100 times. There's no rule on how many times you can change your mind about what works. People get hung up. Well, yeah. I've done this and I've changed my mind 20 times. I'm going to get in trouble. No, you're not. Like, dude, figure it out. If it takes 1,000 times, it takes 1,000 times. Yeah. No one's watching because they're all self-absorbed. They don't care about you. They care about them. No one's keeping track except you. And that was a big thing.
And I've heard you on podcasts talking about routine and you being focused on your routine, and I'm hearing you really figure out what works for you. How much do you tweak the routine, or how stable has it been if you look back in the past?
It's the most stable it's been. I mean, COVID was, it was pretty stable up to then, but since COVID and I'm working from home, it's even more stable because I don't have to drive much. So I stay home and do everything online. But
yeah,
again, everything as much as I can revolves around my trying to make sure that I recover, because in my mind, the way my training is focused is like, I know what I have to do. I know exactly the workout I'm going to do tomorrow. It's not like I'm not going to hit the gym and say, well, what do I feel like doing today? It's like, I know, because I know what I did last week. I know the numbers I'm trying to do, and I know how hard it was last week or easy. and the mistakes I made. So I'm really focused today on tomorrow. I've got to make sure my weight is correct because I'm trying to maintain a certain body weight for my lifts. And then I got to make sure that I've recovered because I've had 2 heavy training days. I had my heavy swing day yesterday, my heavy rep today. So I had extra requirement for recovery. So I'm always trying to make sure that I get what I need in terms of nutrition and rest and mental preparation. The mental preparations of the visualization, of the analysis of like, okay, what did I do wrong last Monday? What do I want to fix? So that's a big part of it. It's like the routine allows efficiency. People are always going out and about. It's like, okay, you've got a big workout tomorrow. And instead of stretching and hanging out and actually recovering, you go to this party, you go to that party, you're on your feet for 12 hours. And then you go to the gym and you wonder why you can't perform. It's like, I know why you can't perform. Then they say, well, I can't live like that. I said, okay, then I win. I can't.
Yes.
There's a price, right? There's a price to be paid. Most people don't want to pay it. And I have no judgment about that. If you want to be a multimillionaire, there's a price to be paid. If you want to be a PhD, there's a price to anything anybody wants to accomplish, there's a price to be paid. Are you willing to pay it? And if you're not, don't pretend. Like I said, there's no judgment. I don't care. Do you care? Tracy said the other day, because she went to some party with the neighborhood people with dogs. Oh, your ex-landlady, right? And she says, they said, why isn't Mark here? And it's like, well, tell them the truth. It's like, tomorrow's heavy swing day. I don't go out.
I love it.
No, I mean, that's the truth. Like, tell the truth. It's like, I don't socialize. My entire job is I spend 7 hours a day, in intense one-on-one communication with my clients. When I'm not doing this, I don't socialize. I'm an introvert. That drains me.
Yeah.
I need time to recharge my batteries. If I don't have time to recharge my batteries, then things don't go well.
Yeah.
I know this about me. So I know that I have to have a certain amount of time alone, quiet, contemplative of what that works for me. The hard part was not knowing what I needed. Well, the hard part was giving myself permission to take it.
Yes.
And saying no. I have a friend, his wife's always dragging him here, there, and there. I said, just say no. And what do you mean? I'm like, no, honey, I'm not going.
Yes.
You go. Well, I don't know how to do that. I said, I understand, but that's the answer.
Yeah.
You don't have to go. But some people love that. More power to them. But again, I enjoy that state. The lifts are easy and my body feels strong. And I feel that flow state where you feel strong and powerful. And it's easy. You're doing stuff that's really been hard before, and now it's easy. There's nothing I like more. But that requires preparation.
Yeah.
You don't just fall into that. Occasionally you do, but you can't count on falling into that. You can count on trying to create it as best you can. And that's what the best athletes do, right?
Yes.
Why do Tour de France riders get 2 hours of massage after every ride? Because that's how important the suppleness of their tissues are. They have to recover because guess what? They're going to go ride another 6 hours tomorrow and the day after that, the day after that. It's their life.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. A lot of people want to have the results, the physique, the condition of pro athletes, but they don't see what pro athletes live like. They don't see the discipline, the monasticism of, a true professional athlete's lifestyle. They think it's all celebrations and winning tournaments and all this until they realize, you're on the court for 5 hours a day, every single day, whether you want to or not, right?
Yes. Oh, the work and routine that goes into it, and discipline, which I love how strict you are in a way that you know your goals and you know what is your priority. And at this point, you don't have a problem saying no to things that doesn't align with that. So it seems like it's so beautiful how you've actually kept this mindset and you're so clear about it as you continue to, grow or transition through life. And I'm hearing you're uncompromisable about the things that really matter to you.
Yeah, no, I really am. And it's irritated people along the way, including my family. It's like, it's okay, I can live with it. I'm not telling you how to live your life. And the more I've gotten into this lifestyle, the more I realize it's comforting in a lot of ways because it allows me to be who I want to be, who I am. And it allows me to think the thoughts I want and have the experiences, the physical experiences I want. And it's not like I never do anything else. It's just that I pick and choose.
That's great. Mark, I am so grateful for the time. Just maybe a few more questions to close out with. I do want to touch base on the coaching because you've been in this training and coaching people for so many years. I've heard you speaking on other podcasts. You've actually coached people for 20 plus years, which to me is just so impressive.
Half of my clients have been with me for 23 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking for the uprising coaches, because there's been a lot of coaching as a job now rising, whether it's athletic coaching or life coaching, right? That's just such a growing industry in general. What are your tips on maintaining the clientele or really focusing on putting the client first? How have you gone about it? It seems like it came natural to you. It may not come natural to others. So what are some of the lessons you would want to share?
The way I've always looked at it, when I started doing personal training, even, when I first started, I always looked at it. Everybody always wants to coach pro athletes. It's horrible coaching pro athletes. One, they want everything for free. And two, pretty much all you can do is mess them up. Like I coached a couple semi-pro pitchers, right? I do not want to be the guy that's known as ruining this guy's $1 million arm because I made him do kettlebell snatches and he tweaked himself. And also, I've been injured since I was 17. So I had a lot of empathy for people that were older. They weren't athletes. They had lots of limitations. So I purposely aimed my coaching career at regular people and older people and tried to give them a balanced approach of working like all these components of the primal patterns and the primal abilities of strength and endurance and stability and flexibility, all in a workout, right? I tried to get a little bit of everything because I knew that this would help them in the long run more than anything, a 6-week program and an 8-week program. There's no finish line, right? So you have all these qualities that you want to help them with, and that's a process. And then the other part of it is I see myself as a concierge trainer. So when you train with me, I don't send packages, stuff like this. You buy a slot. Okay, you pay for the slot. So you want to train with me, you train twice a week, once a week, whatever it is, at 8 o'clock on Mondays. That's your slot. If you don't show up, you still pay.
Right.
Because I am available for you on whatever level. If you need nutrition, you call me. You can call me. I've got this. I hurt this. What do I do? I'm in Hawaii and I have this equipment. I mean, I'm available to my clients basically around the clock.
Yes.
And I have been, right? But I also have abilities in nutrition and corrective exercise. I mean, I made sure that my skills as a trainer, I'm not just teaching them lifting weights or kettlebells or whatever. It's a broader scope. So I would say to trainers is like, have some experience in all these other aspects of understand the basis of nutrition, understand the basics of rehabilitation and prehabilitation. I mean, I'm not saying go out of your scope of practice. I still refer out all the time. But at the same time, teaching somebody to be more flexible and more stable is not out of the scope of practice. That is the scope of practice. Same thing with eating and things like that, although that's a very touchy subject. But I don't give nutrition advice or diet advice anymore because everybody lies. So I just stopped. I don't even talk to clients about that because
they lie what they ate? Is it they don't give truth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is the thing. And I learned this years ago. It's like you ask someone, I used to ask people like, how's your diet? Every single person say the same. I generally eat healthy. That is always the answer. Like, okay, you're 75 pounds over fat. What do you mean you generally eat healthy? Well, I have a piece of tuna fish and a grain of rice for breakfast, and I have one lettuce leaf and a half a hard-boiled egg for dinner. It's like, no, you don't. You're lying. You're a garbage disposal. It's just a moot point because eating is just such an emotional topic, and then understanding Tracy's obesity and all that. Like I saw firsthand my stepson's obesity. It's like, it's a complicated thing. People do it when they're ready. So I stopped doing anything with nutrition. I tell them what I do. But here's the other part. The reason I have those qualifications is because I live it. Like one of the things I always say is never trust a trainer that doesn't train. I've actually had trainers say like, dude, I don't have time to do my workouts. I have too many clients. I said, That is the worst thing I've ever heard. Okay, if you're telling people to make time in their busy life to train, and you're supposed to be the professional trainer, and you aren't taking your own advice, you're a fraud.
That's true.
So you learn everything that I've learned that I give to my clients. I've learned because I experienced it. I went through it myself. That's the best way. I've made mistakes for them. So I'm like trying to be not an elite athlete in that sense, but I'm trying to be in figuring out these answers so that I can tell my clients with certainty, if you do this, this will work, because I tried it. And it may not work, but here's a good starting point. So it's, again, that sense of not a mentor to them, but a coach, like a real coach. You're looking at the whole person's life, not just the hour that you see them in the gym. So I think that's a big part of it. And having the mindset, you have to pick the right clients, right? Too. I mean, people that have the wherewithal. It's like, if you have somebody that's barely making ends meet and they're not going to be able to pay you, I mean, it's a reality, right? The clients that I've had are well off enough that they, when you're young, you need money. When you're older and you have money, you need help. So you've got to approach it that way. You're looking for clients and going to studios or going to gyms where people have the appreciation for what you're doing. And this didn't happen overnight, right? It's been a lot of different gyms and a lot of different studios. And once I went into full-time training, then it became even more precise in terms of getting these clients. So that's having that mindset. Again, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? So you have to have an idea where you want to go.
Yeah.
Most people don't look at personal training as a career. It's kind of a quick way to make a buck. If you're into it becoming a career, it's a different mindset.
Yeah, I love that perspective. You've, again, gone through all the different sports. Seems like you have such a well-rounded experience. And there's still so many people who probably don't understand the benefits of just movement and activity. So given your background, what is the message you would like to get out to the world? What would you want to invite people to be doing more of or less of? Perhaps they're inspired by hearing you, obviously impressed by your experience. Where would you suggest them to start?
Walking. Walking's everything. Walking's the base. Walking's the foundation. From walking, everything else flows. Like if you can walk strongly, the whole system is going to work. So that's an interesting question, because metabolic health is important too. And by metabolic health, I mean the ability to tolerate, like we were talking about, high heart rates and high intensity. So what would I tell someone who's very out of shape? How would you get fitter metabolically as well as muscularly? And here's the thing. So it's one, building up to your walking an hour a day, 5 days a week. The other thing would be some type of intermittent fasting, because intermittent fasting, or fasting in general, just regular fasting, creates a stress situation, a positive stress situation in the system that allows your body to increases. You know what, when I say heat shock proteins, you know what that means?
Explain more.
It's proteins that fasting and sauna and high intensity, high heart rate stuff increases these proteins in the body called heat shock proteins, which stimulates the immune system. The other thing is sauna. Being able to tolerate hot. It can be hot from a sauna. It can be hot from outside in the sun. It can be hot from a high intensity training session. Most people can't tolerate getting their heart rate up very high. So sauna is a great way to build that ability to tolerate heat without actually being strong enough to do it. So walking, some type of intermittent fasting, some type of sauna, and then building with a simple lifting routine, 3 days a week, 2 days a week, some type of one lift per basic muscle pattern.
Yeah.
Doesn't take much, but it takes much over time. So if you train twice a week, that's nothing. Unless you multiply it times twice a week, times a year, times 5 years, then it's something.
Yeah.
So it's the consistency that matters. Everybody's worried about, I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to train 6 days a week. And I'm training 2 hours a day. No, you're not. You're going to get started and in a week you're going to quit because it's too hard. And you don't need it to be that hard. You find something you can tolerate that doesn't seem very hard, Like I said, you want to masochism, sit for 30 minutes a day and don't move. And that's the same thing. Train twice a week without missing for a year.
Yeah.
And see how you feel.
I love that.
Just go for a walk for an hour, 5 days a week, and don't miss. They'll miss because of anything. Oh, the leaves fell differently today. I better take the day off. Or it's cloudy today. I got to take the day off. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody misses for anything. Unless you're bleeding, you don't miss.
Yes. Consistency.
Do something. You don't have to do, it's not a perfect routine, but show up, do your best, because you never know where you're going to feel good. Most of my best workouts are coming days when I don't feel good. I go in the gym, I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a terrible session. I have a great session, and vice versa. So you never know.
Yeah, agree. Thank you so much, Mark. Maybe last simple question. I'll add all the resources to the episode notes, but where can people find you? Mm-hmm. Anyone who wants to get in touch or perhaps book a session with you?
The best way is to go to my website, which is GiryaStrength.com, GIRYA Strength. And that has the links to my blog and my YouTube channel and to the resources, the articles I've written, or they just Google me. I'm easy to find.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. I have to say, I've learned so much. I'm going to start adding recovery as a more purposeful part of my day. I'll report back.
Your body will appreciate it.
Yes.
And when you come over to see Ronan, we'll take a look at your gait.
Fantastic. I have to book the meeting still with you all and Tracy. So text messages coming for sure. If you enjoyed this episode, I want to ask you to please do two things that would help me greatly. One, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcasting platform that you use to listen to this episode. Two, please share this podcast with a friend who you believe might enjoy it as well. It is a great way to remind someone you care about them by sharing a conversation they might be interested in. Thank you for listening.